2023 is on course to be the deadliest year on Australian roads in at least the past 5 years. For the year to the end of August, the national road toll stands at 828. That's well above what it was at the same point for each of the past 5 years. And over the past 12-month period, more than 1,200 people have lost their lives on our roads. In the wake of these latest figures, there's a push for greater transparency around the data that informs spending on road safety infrastructure and where improvements need to be made. Let's talk this through now with the head of the Australian Automobile Association, Michael Bradley. Michael, thanks for your time. This campaign, Data Saves Lives. Explain to our viewers what this is all about.
Well, Kieran, we're trying to raise awareness about a pretty simple solution to a pretty terrible problem. As you've just said, we've got an Australian road toll that's gone up for the first time in a long time, and it's up 10% this year. We've got cycling deaths up nearly 40% this year, pedestrian deaths up more than 25% this year, and here we are unable to tell you why that is. Now, the situation we're trying to resolve is the information we need to unpack this is held by state governments. They've got lots of information about the quality of their road network, the causes of the crashes we're seeing, the effectiveness of their law enforcement. But they don't share this. They don't report it. And until now, nobody has asked them to or incentivised them to or plainly forced them to. We're running this campaign because over the next 2 months, the Commonwealth has the opportunity to sign a national partnership agreement with states and attach some strings to the $10 billion that they give state governments every year in road funding.
And the data is there.
The data is there.
On where the spots are that need to improve, on what's causing these accidents, but it's not released.
There is 450,000 kilometres worth of road risk assessments done by state and territory governments. They have for many years committed to release this. We think that voters, taxpayers, should be able to see where their money is being spent and, frankly, whether or not their money is being spent where it needs to be spent.
The Transport Minister, Catherine King, committed to releasing or require the states to release this data before the election. Is she on board with this?
Well, to be clear, to her great credit, Minister King was at pains ahead of the last election to highlight her commitment and the Labor Party's commitment to ending the rorts in road funding or in infrastructure spending. I think it's no great surprise to people that governments of all persuasions in this building in recent decades have run foul of the Audit Committee, of the Audit Office. Transport spending has been a little bit of a money go round in Canberra. We do not have the accountability or the transparency for road funding that we have for health funding, for education funding that goes to states. We were very pleased when the Labor Party committed to trying to leverage the $10 billion they give states in road funding and get some of this data on the table, because if you're not measuring it, you have no chance of managing it.
And this is a crunch time right now, as you articulated before. The next 5-year agreement for the state funding has to be done by early December.
That's our understanding.
So you need the federal government, I mean, for road safety, the federal government needs to get on board and commit the states, compel the states to release the data in return for the dollars.
We don't want to be having this conversation for the next 5 years. These national partnership agreements come around every 5 years. They are the contract which dictates how that $10 billion a year will be spent. There needs to be some strings attached to this, because for years in the past, state governments have talked and committed to releasing this, but they have not followed through, and there's no compulsion for them to do so right now.
It seems an absolute no-brainer to get this data out there. What's the sort of feedback you've had from, say, the Labor Party? We're in the back bench. I'm sure you've been speaking to a lot of politicians.
We talk to a lot of politicians on both sides of politics. I think it's fair to say there is a lot of support for what appears a common sense solution. I'd also say that our polling suggests about 85 or 90% of voters are on board with this as well. The formal government position on this is unclear, it's undeclared, but we're enthused and pleased with what was said before the election, but the clock is ticking and we have a couple of months to work out what is actually going to happen.
Well, what we've seen is over years, the death toll steadily fall on our roads, but as we mentioned earlier, it's back on the uptick. So surely something's out of place.
Something's amiss, and our current approach is not working. And I'd like to be able to explain to you whether or not it's the different speed management regimes that are happening in different jurisdictions, or their different approach to seatbelt enforcement, new technologies with camera monitoring of mobile phone use and distraction in cars. I want to know whether or not it's maintenance budgets at state level, which are road maintenance budgets, and whether or not they're appropriate. All of this can be quantified, is being quantified. It should be transparent. There should be accountability for the way taxpayers' dollars are spent. And let's call this for what it is. This is a problem which will cause 100 Australians to be hospitalised today. It'll kill 100 Australians this month. There's a huge prize here.
And I'm just trying to get my head around, because it's illogical, really, that we've got the data, it's not out there. Is it because of pork barrelling? Is it because politicians want to be able to shovel money into roads where they see fit, as opposed to following the proof and the data?
These are questions that need to be put to government or state governments. We're on the side of this debate which says there's no logical or rational reason for this to be withheld. The data we're asking for is there, and it's available today.
Data saves lives. Michael Bradley from the Automobile Association will stay in touch on that campaign over the next couple of months. It's
thanks for your time.
Important few months on that.